Hello and welcome to Broadsword Wargaming. I'm Oliver and today I've got something truly out of this world for you. Literally. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how I built an alien jungle crystal board tailor-made for Warhammer and kill team battles. Although all of the techniques and materials used here can be easily adapted to suit any other type of terrain you're after. Now, a big shout out to the awesome folks at Fortress Factory for hooking me up with a fantastic assortment of terrain. This set, part of their brand new Dark Ascension range, caught my eye and I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. I'm not usually one for full 3D printed pieces, but these blew me away, especially those giant crystals. First off, let's break down the base foundation of this board. I opted for sturdy 5mm plywood supported by 4 lengths of 2x1. A combination of screws and wood glue and you're good to go. This particular board size is 30 by 22 inches, which is the exact size of a current kill team board. Before we get into the details of the actual build, I took some time to pick out some of my favourite bits and plan out the layout of this board. My goal is to showcase every aspect of these terrain pieces whilst also experimenting with new products and techniques. And I've got to keep it playable. Initially, I was leaning towards a Tzeentch style desert crystal board, or a Mars style wasteland, but I've already done a few sandy setups on the channel, so it was time to step out of my comfort zone and try something else. As we progress through the build, you'll see that the plan for the overall theme of the board undergoes quite a few changes. I considered various ideas throughout, but I stick with this core layout you see here. I guess that's all part of the creative process. Now that the base is solid, it's time to shape the landforms. There's no need to break the bank here, I'm just using cheap 25mm polystyrene, the kind that leaves a mess when you break it all apart. We're not going for the expensive sculptable insulation foam since everything is going to be covered up and reinforced later on anyway. A sharp blade will get the job done, though a hot wire cutter can give you a smoother transition. I just don't own one. I'm carving out some basic hills to add a touch of verticality and visual interest to the board. The goal is to have those imposing crystals towering over a man-made fortress section. Raising the crystals a bit higher helps me to sell that effect. Once you have a rough layout, grab some PVA glue. I'm using the Geek Gaming product, check out my store in the description, but any PVA glue will work. Secure the pieces in place and then add something weighty on top to let it dry, something like the Age of Sigmar core rulebook. It's time to talk about one of my all-time favourite board building products, Geek Gaming Modelling Compound. It not only dries rock solid, but sets dead quickly, so you're not waiting around for days waiting for it to dry. It is genuinely so good, and I use it in every build. It's a powder that you mix in with a bit of water until it's the consistency of egg mayonnaise. Then you apply it wherever needed. The thinner the mix, the longer it takes to set. As it starts to dry, you can add a bit of water to your fingers and smooth it down to achieve the desired shapes. I use this to set the crystals into the board, and to maintain that otherworldly look, I skipped the typical earthy rocks and added a small crystal barrier to the edge of the polystyrene instead of using rock molds. I just thought this would help the entire board theme and feel. While that's setting, it's time to give some attention to the fortress pieces themselves. My terrain building philosophy revolves around efficiency, and I'm a staunch advocate of using budget-friendly spray cans. The thought of spending hours meticulously painting blacks and greys is a prospect I'd rather avoid. A quick blast of black base, followed by several shades of grey, swiftly establishes the base colours. Drawing inspiration from movies like Avatar, where nature takes centre stage, I opted for a grey, colourless building to let the natural elements shine. The fortress will play a supporting role, showcasing the industrial elements of this board. Well-sculpted metallic bits receive a touch of silver to enhance their details. While this process does take some time, it's not bad when you have some company. Fortunately for me, I had my lovely Patreons on the phone during one of our monthly hobby hangouts on the private Discord server. If the idea of joining a community of hobbyists, engaging in monthly hangouts, and gaining early access to video previews or work in progress shots appeals to you, consider joining the Patreon and supporting the channel. Right, plug done. While the fortress pieces dry, it's back to the board. The crystals, a focal point of the battlefield, get sprayed with a black base coat and a white sort of zenithal. The plan is to maintain vibrancy and ensure these crystals pop with contrast and colour. What better way to achieve this than with fluorescent pink paints? Now, although new to me, these Vallejo fluo paints, typically used for glowing light effects, promise the bright and vivid colours I'm aiming for. Using an airbrush allows me to control the paint application, building up layers smoothly and evenly. I generally steer away from hand painting washes onto 3D printed pieces because I want to avoid bringing attention to the print lines. I'm really happy with the results, and now I just want to go and make a full modular board with these crystals, but, well, maybe that's a project for another day, eh? Whilst looking through my pile of long-forgotten terrain shame pieces, I stumbled upon these from about 5 years ago. Plastic fish tank plants that had never found a purpose. Until now. Their glossy, slightly strange appearance seemed perfect for a vibrant alien jungle board. While they might look fake, their scale suited our needs perfectly, so I decided to give them a chance. Despite initial attempts to make them appear more natural with varnish and green sprays, the breakthrough came when I tried hitting them with a coloured spray, fed from beneath. With a protective coat of brown covering the entire board, it was time to tackle the messiest part of the build, the ground cover. Armed with an assortment of products, some familiar and others untested, I tried to make the decision to jump all in on the jungle theme. While it may seem like this was always the plan, at this point I still wasn't sure whether to go with sand, snow, or the Mars-coloured red. Using the AK Interactive Muddy Ground Paste, I dipped the plastic plants and placed them all around the board. Although this is a bit of a time-consuming and fiddly process, by the next day they were set and solid enough for me to carry on. I was honestly pleasantly surprised by how they looked. They tied in really nicely and contrasted well against the pink. Plus, they are super cheap and you can buy them online really easily. The next step was applying PVA glue to the entire board. For the muddy soil effect, I went for the best product available. Actual soil from my partner's plant pots. After baking it in the oven, though I'm still uncertain if that step is actually necessary, I mixed in some brown tile grout to get it to a firmer setting. Chunky pieces were added pretty haphazardly, creating an unrefined yet authentic texture. A quick sift through means you can remove any overly awkwardly large pieces. This is a step where you just have to eyeball it. Put in bits into the deeper recesses of the board or parts where you think will be less worn down or trodden. Putting the rest of the product through a sieve ensures smaller, groutier bits cover the rest of the board. The idea here is to start building a base to work from. In nature, beneath pretty much everything, is soil. I don't want to just add other products directly to the wood, or it'll start to look really unnatural and weird. The result here is pretty good, and even better, it's dead cheap. For the fortress section, I used Geek Gaming City Rubble Base Ready. I thought the fortress would look more destructive if it had just bulldozed all of the natural elements out of the way, leaving a flat, bland rubble base. Tying it in together and mixing it makes it look as though vehicles are driving in and out of the natural areas. Then, to lock everything in place, I used Geek Gaming Matte Scenic Sealant, generously applying it to the whole board. Basically, every step from now on involves repeated soakings in both Scenic Sealant and watered down PVA glue. I want to make sure everything is locked in place. This is intended to be a playable board after all, so it does need to be durable. To help tie the big crystals in, I scattered Geek Gaming's crystal pieces around the base of the larger crystals, creating the illusion of broken bits or seeds ready to sprout. I'll be honest, I don't really know how these crystals grow, so yeah, something like that. For more variety in the browns and added texture, I used additional ground covers, the Forest Path and Forest Ground Cover ones, and just literally lobbed this wherever I fancied, no planning involved. After another thorough soaking, I wanted to fill the void between the large plastic plants and the soil. Unable to find tufts that I felt suited the aesthetic, I opted for Gamer's Grass laser cut plants. These come in lots of different colours and add some lovely variety, breaking up the brown ground and adding some more visual interest. They're kind of like weird, fake paper plants that you think will look rubbish but look really good in the end. Now, although the board could have been considered finished at this point, I felt it needed something more. I wasn't overly happy with the relatively flat brown, but hadn't planned on making the board more Earth-like. What happened was I ended up introducing green foam flocks, an aim to break up the brown and infuse a splash of colour. The foam flock not only added texture, but when wet, it bleeds into the mud, creating a swampier appearance. A mixture of mid, dark and light green provide a variety that actually helps sell the overall theme. A thick watered down PVA solution serves as the adhesive for the foam flocks. Layer by layer, the greens are added. The beauty of doing things in this way on this style of board is the flexibility it offers. If you're not satisfied, just keep adding more until you're happy. It's a scary part, to be honest, but you can't really go wrong. With the groundwork complete, for now, I turn my attention back to the crystals, carefully avoiding the vibrant pink. The rock texture was painted, and I addressed the join line between the top and bottom parts of the floating island. Once that was all dry, I decided to lean into the swampy feel. It seemed like the perfect time to try out the AK Interactive still water. Now, I've never used this, but I have used things like this before, and thought this was really good. It's clean, manageable, and easy to use. What more could you want? And with those final touches, the board is complete. While there's always more that can be done, at some point a project just has to be considered finished. This alien jungle board, to me, is a combination of the movies Avatar and Predator, depicting that beautiful natural landscape marred by a looming man-made structure. The narrative, in my mind, is the Imperium coming to mine these valuable crystal structures, but nature finds a way to push back. I don't know, what do you think? Throughout the process, decisions had to be made and moments of doubt were there, but they were overcome with the mentality of, just chuck more on until it works. I don't know if that's a sensible way to build boards, but it's the way I was taught and have learned to build boards. A super special thanks to the people at Fortress Factory for their fantastic terrain pieces. Links to their Etsy and Cult 3D can be found in the description, so make sure to check them out and grab a few bits for yourselves. They're offering both pre-printed products and/or the files so you can print them yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. To support the channel, consider joining Patreon or explore our EU-based store for miniatures, paints and scenic parts featured in this video. Board builds, as you've seen, aren't daunting. They simply require the right tools, products and a bit of experimentation. I hope this inspires you to give it a go yourself, even if you just use these techniques to add more to your model's basing. With that, we're about done. Thank you so much for watching, take care, and I will catch you in the next one.